Welcome back, viewers. You're with me, Surbhi Unyal. I teach philosophy at Hansraj College, University of Delhi. And we are doing a special lecture series under the symbolic expressions. We have with us Ms. Manisha, who's going to interpret my lectures in sign language. This lecture series is on the introduction to philosophy. And in that, we are doing a lecture on yoga philosophy. In our last few videos, we have been discussing some of the elementary concepts in yoga philosophy. And in this lecture, we will be discussing the limbs or the 8 limbs in the Ashtanga Yoga. In the previous lecture, we already discussed the 3 types or the 3 limbs in the Ashtanga Yoga, which are Yam, Niyam and Asana. While in this lecture, we would be doing the remaining limbs in the Ashtanga Yoga. So let us begin. We will be doing the 4th limb in this 8-fold path, which is pranayam. So pranayam is the essential component and the 4th limb of the 8-fold path. Pranayam refers to the practice of breath control and its regulation, which helps us to channel and expand the vital life force energy, which is the pran within the body. It means control of breath and deals with regulation of inhalation, retention and exhalation of breath. It is beneficial to health and is highly conducive to the concentration of the mind. But it must be performed under the special guidance. So it must be done only when there is an expert to guide you. Otherwise, it may have bad after effects. The main purpose of pranayam is that it helps the chitta to remain concentrated and focused. So through pranayam, one can control his or her body by doing some postures and the breath control. So pranayam has 3 steps. These 3 steps are Purak, Kumbhaka and Rechaka. The first step, Puraka, conveys that to take as much air as possible. So it is known as inhaling. The second step is Kumbhaka, and it expresses that after inhaling as much air as possible, tries to retain it for half of the time taken in inhaling. So the time that you have taken in inhaling, you have to take half of that time in retaining that inhaled air. The third step is Rechaka. It states that gradually exhale the air by taking the same time that you had consumed that air or that you had consumed it while inhaling. So you have to take the same amount of time while exhaling. So gradually you exhale that air. So these 3 steps are Purak, which is inhaling, Kumbhaka, which is retention, and Rechak, which is exhaling, are the fundamental components of many pranayam techniques. These 3 steps will gradually accelerate so that in due course of time, the agent may control his or her breath which helps the chitta to remain concentrated and it does not get disturbed. So that is the aim of pranayama. Moving further, let's talk about pratyahar. So in Ashtanga Yoga, pratyahar is the fifth limb of the eightfold path. Pratyahar is often described as the withdrawal or control of the senses. It is the practice of redirecting our attention inwards. That means away from the external stimuli and cultivating a heightened sense of inner awareness. So it is the control of the senses and consists in withdrawing the senses from their objects. Our senses have a natural tendency to go outward towards the objects. So they must be checked and directed towards the internal goal. So it is the process of introversion, or you can say moving inwards. Why? Because if the senses are going outwards, they have a natural tendency that we will then have desire to attain those outward objects. And in fact, that would create a distraction from the ultimate goal, which is the concentration on the pure consciousness. So, this limb in the Ashtanga Yoga, it tells us to withdraw our senses, or we have to control our senses so that we can have a controlled way of looking at things, or you can say there must be a checked manner in which we are looking at the objects. Why? Because in doing that, it will be directed towards our internal goal. So we would know what is our internal goal without getting distracted by the desires which were caused when the senses moved outward to the objects. So we need to stop that, and in doing that we need to withdraw our senses or have control over the senses. Now pratyahar, it encourages detachment from sensory experiences without suppression or denial. So it involves observing the sensations and experiences that arise without getting entangled or reactive to them. This detachment helps to cultivate a sense of inner equanimity and freedom from the constant fluctuations of the senses. Fine. So if senses are going out and which would naturally create desires in us, so this practice of pratyahar would help us to withdraw our senses, and this does not mean that there will be a denial of any kind. In fact, this kind of checked or controlled way of having the sensation means that we will not get entangled to anything. We will not get attached, and in that way it leads to detachment, and which in a way helps us in cultivating this sense of freedom or inner equanimity, and from the freedom from these fluctuations that happens due to the senses. So this pratyahar, now it serves a bridge between the external practices of asana, which is the posture, pranayama, which is the breath control, and internal practice of concentration and meditation. So by withdrawing the senses, practitioners, they create a conducive environment for deeper state of meditation. So pratyahar, it prepares the mind for the subsequent stages of concentration, dharana and meditation, which is dhyan. And therefore you can see it as a bridge between the external practices and the internal practices. So external, where we were focusing upon the bodily postures or our breath, it is serving a link between that and the internal practice, which is of concentration and meditation. So concentration and meditation can only happen if you have withdrawn your senses from the external objects, or you are having a checked or a controlled sense experience. Only then it will help or prepare the mind for the subsequent stages of concentration and meditation. Now these 5 external aids, or you can say these 5, the first 5 are called the external aids to yoga, while the remaining 3 that we would be doing now, they are known as internal aids. So as mentioned earlier, asana, yam, niyam, asana, all those 5 are included in external, and the rest 3 would be included in the internal aids, which includes dharana, dhyan and samadhi. So let us start with dharana. Dharana is the 6th limb of the 8-fold path. Dharana refers to concentration or the practice of focusing the mind on a single point or object. So it is the ability to sustain unwavering attention on a chosen focal point, cultivating mental stability and clarity. So it is the fixing the mind on the object of meditation. And these object of meditation could be anything. It could be like a tip of the nose, or the midpoint of the eyebrows, or the lotus of the heart, or the image of the deity. It could be any of these. The main point is that it should be able to fix all the attention to that point or to that object. Only then it will facilitate concentration. Fine, so mind must be steadfast like unflickering flame of the lamp. Our mind, it constantly shifts from one object to the another. So to keep the mind focused on one particular point and tries to check for its frequency or shifting one object to the another, that is known as dharana. Fine, so in this stage, the agent keeps his or her mind constantly engaged in one object and tries to bring back the mind to that particular object if it is shifted to another object as quick as possible. Now the practice of concentration, it is prerequisite and preparation for the meditation proper. The training of concentration enables us to stay focused on whatever object is chosen. First, simpler objects are selected, which in turn prepare us for the ultimate object, which is the formless consciousness, which is nothing but the pure consciousness or pure awareness. So we start from simpler objects and go to the ultimate objects, which is the pure consciousness. So now for dhyan and samadhi to exist, the first stage would be your dharana. Only then we can move on to dhyan and then ultimately to samadhi. So dharana is not an innate ability, but it is a skill that can be developed through consistent practice. It requires effort, patience and perseverance to train the mind and cultivate concentration. Fine, so you are not born with this ability. This is a skill that you learn and you develop it. The more you practice, the more you would become perfect. So regular practice of asana, which is the postures, pranayam, which is breath control, and pratyahar, which is the withdrawal of the senses, that supports the development of your dharana. Fine, so if you have to concentrate, you need to first take care of your asana, your pranayam, your pratyahar. Only then you can move towards dharana. And once you have attained this level of concentration or you have reached dharana, dharana then sets the stage for the seventh limb of the Ashtanga Yoga, which is dhyan or meditation. So as concentration deepens through dharana, it naturally leads to a state of meditation, where the object of concentration, it becomes absorbed and the practitioner experiences a state of expanded awareness and inner stillness. With that, let's move on to the seventh limb, which is dhyan. Dhyan refers to meditation or the state of deep contemplation and absorption. It is the practice of sustaining focused awareness on a chosen object or a point of focus, leading to a state of expanded consciousness and inner stillness. It means meditation and consists in undisturbed flow of thoughts round the object of meditation, and here you can say that it is the steadfast contemplation without any break. So dhyan, it differs from the previous limb, which is concentration, as it involves effortlessly maintaining a continuous flow of awareness towards the chosen object. So unlike concentration, where there is a deliberate effort to exclude irrelevant thoughts, in meditation, or you can say meditation allows for a constant stream of impressions and awareness towards the object without any exertion of the will. So it happens, automatically in the state of meditation. Whereas in the earlier stage, which is concentration, there had to be a willingful effort to remove these irrelevant thoughts. But in meditation, that happens automatically. So during meditation, the practitioner cultivates a state of deep absorption, and you can say that the mind becomes still and the boundaries of the ego, they dissolve, leading to the sense of unity and interconnectedness with the object of meditation and the larger reality. So, it is a state of pure awareness beyond the fluctuations of thoughts and emotions. In this stage, the aspirant becomes successful to remain concentrated on an object in a longer time. Here, the aspirant realizes the whole object by concentrating on its one part. This step is known as meditation. So it helps us to realize the true nature of the Chit. Fine, so this is the, you can say, the aim or the significance, that it helps us to realize the true nature of the Chit. Now, Dhyan is a preparation for the 8th and the final limb of the Ashtanga Yoga, which is Samadhi. Through sustained practice and deepening of Dhyan, the practitioner can eventually experience moments of Samadhi, which is the state of complete absorption, or you can say transcendence, and the union with the divine. Now let's discuss the last limb of the Ashtanga Yoga, which is Samadhi. Samadhi is the state of complete absorption and union with the object of meditation or the divine. It is the highest level of consciousness and the ultimate goal of yoga practice. In this stage, the aspirant negates the difference between the subject and the object and realizes the true nature of the Chit, that how it attains the form of the object. So here the process of concentration and the object becomes one and identical. And this stage is known as cessation of modifications of the Chit. So this is the final step in yoga. Here the mind is completely absorbed in the object of meditation. In Dhyan, the act of meditation and the object of meditation still remain separate. But here in Samadhi, they become one. So it is the highest means to realize the cessation of the mental modification, which is the end. Fine, so it is the ascetic, you can say, the state in which the connection with the external world is broken and through which one has to pass before obtaining liberation. Samadhi is of two types, Sampragyat Samadhi or the Asampragyat Samadhi. The Sampragyat Samadhi, which is the conscious Samadhi, the aspirant becomes aware of his or her concentration. When the Chit is concentrated on one object, the similar kind of the object of modification occurs in the Chit. Therefore, it is known as the conscious Samadhi. The other kind of Samadhi is Asampragyat Samadhi, which is supraconscious. This is the highest form of Samadhi. In this stage, there will be no distinction found between the subject and the object. The worldly attachment and the sufferings, they will also disappear. Thus, it is known as attribute-less Samadhi. So, Samadhi is considered the pinnacle of spiritual attainment leading to liberation or moksha or enlightenment. In this state, the practitioner transcends the cycle of birth and death and realizes the true nature as pure consciousness. It is the state of liberation from suffering and ultimate realization of the pure consciousness. So that's all for today. Very thank you to all the viewers. And with this we come to an end of a discussion on yoga philosophy. So thank you all, and thank you for watching our lectures.